Shalom Aleichem. We are now going to discuss a few words about the parasha of this coming Shabbat, Parashat Vayigash. And now Chanukah is over, and yet there is in the air a certain atmosphere of Chanukah going still with us. As we have mentioned before, that the miracle of Chanukah has made Chanukah a festival which is not considered a holiday, in which we are not allowed to do many things that we are not allowed to do on Shabbat and other holidays. But Chanukah we are allowed to do everything as usual, except the fact that there is something spiritual, an aura of Chanukah surrounding us because of the Shekhinah, the divine presence that came down upon the Jewish people at the time of the miracle of the great victory of the Hashmonaim against the Syrian Greek Empire army. And since then, this miracle has been so much, while investigated by our sages for a full year, Ad Shana Acheret, they did not start to celebrate Chanukah until a year has passed since the miracle happened of the oil. Of course, I'm talking about the miracle of the light of the Chanukah, of the menorah. That's why we light Chanukah every day during 8 days. But now Chanukah is over, but still some of the light of Chanukah is still with us, confirming what we have said last week, that the light of Chanukah begins and you feel it in the air. And that's one of the proofs, like it happens with every holiday. Pesach, you feel Pesach in the air. Sukkot, you feel Sukkot in the air, and so forth. Same thing also with Chanukah. And that's why Chanukah is endeared by the Jewish people as something that is really something to talk about, to think about it, and to bring yourself into believing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God Almighty is with us all the time. Of course, during the years, since 2,300 years ago it happened, right? Approximately. And since then, things have developed in many other ways, such as Christianity, for example, came. And they are doing similar things, such as, I would like to mention Christmas, for example. If you go to places where the Christians are, you will see that it's all over lights and beautiful things, no question about it. But apparently, according to the Chokrim, it started from Chanukah. So some people have the wrong idea, thinking that the lights of Chanukah have something to do with the holidays of the Christians. It has nothing to do with that, but the illumination of Chanukah is definitely spiritual. That's what I'm trying here to say. But Parashat Vayigash is the continuation of the parasha of last week. I think this is the exception of all the parashiot of the Torah. Every parasha of the Torah begins with a new subject, with a new theme, somehow. Even the parasha of Vayichi, which we will read next week, which is considered as a closed parasha, because there is no space between this parasha Vayigash and the next parasha Vayichi, and that's an exception of all the parashiot of the Torah. Nevertheless, you know that it starts with a new thing. Vayichi Yaakov. We're talking about the life of Yaakov and the conclusion of that glorious life. That's next week. But this week, Vayigash is another kind of exception. That is the fact that it is a direct continuation of last week's parasha, which brings a question to the mind. Why is it that those who gave us the parashiot, who said them, the great rabbis of then, and yet when it comes to Parashat Vayigash, it's the direct continuation of Parashat Miketz. The story of Joseph continues. We know last week's parasha, Yehuda, after he heard that Yosef refuses to liberate Binyamin, he says, no, Binyamin will stay with me until you go back, and in the meantime, Binyamin is in the hands of Yosef. How can the brothers go back to their father telling him that Binyamin is not with us? For the first time we see the intervention of Yehuda. Yehuda is the brother, the very powerful brother of all the tribes, of all the 12 tribes. He is the king of the tribes of Israel, right? In the beginning he was Lo Yasur Shevet Mi Yehuda, the Torah says. The scepter of royalty will always be in the hands of Yehuda. That's why King David comes of course from Yehuda, from the tribe of Yehuda. Of course, before David we had one king, and the king Shaul, who came from the tribe of Binyamin. And this is, by the way, I'm explaining this, how come? Well, that was because Shemuel, the prophet, has anointed Shaul, who was the best at the time. But at the end of the life of Shaul, there were problems, and his royalty has stopped. And since then, the royalty of David came up, and since then, only royalty of David will be upon us, even in the time of the Mashiach. There is a certain Talmudic sentence in Masechet Yoma where it says something surprising. He says, would you like to know why the royalty of Shaul has ceased forever? Of course, we should keep in mind that the reason is because the Torah says, Lo Yasur Shevet Mi Yehuda. The scepter of royalty is only in the hands of Yehuda. That means David and all the descendants of the tribe of Yehuda. So how come Shaul became the king? So I said that because he was the best at the time, like it says in the verses of the prophets, Mishichmo v'ma'ala gavoa mikulam. He was the best of the best, Shaul, at the time. So our sages said, would you like to know another reason why the royalty of Shaul was concluded in a negative way? It means his royalty has ceased forever. Is because mishum she'en ba lo haya bah dofi. Because there was nothing wrong with that royalty. Everything was perfect. Which means that Shaul was known in the beginning as a very righteous man, very perfect man. Perfection sometimes could be considered a kind of imperfection. Now you have to understand that this is philosophy. And this philosophy teaches us that the person with mistakes is better than the person without mistakes. Shaul had no mistakes at all in the beginning. At the end he became sick, that's something else. But in the beginning he was the best because he was the perfection itself. Sometimes perfection itself is not the best if it starts from the beginning. Which means, if from the beginning of the life of Shaul until almost the end, only perfection, he didn't know the meaning of sin, he didn't know the meaning of imperfection, that's by itself not so good. And the royalty of Shaul has stopped because there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. So how can we understand that? Well, the Baalei HaMusar explained that this is the fact that he had absolutely no mistake in the life of Shaul. Everything was perfect from the beginning. So that means he didn't know the meaning of sin. Not knowing the meaning of sin could be a problem. Our sages say, במקום שבעלי תשובה עומדים, אין צדיקים גמורים יכולים לעמוד. A man who has become better, who has made tshuva, which means in the beginning he was a bad man, but then he changed and he became a good man. This man is elevated to the point, according to one opinion in the Gemara, he's better than a righteous person, tzaddik gamur, which means a man of perfection from the beginning till the end. He didn't know the meaning of sin. Not to know the meaning of sin could be to the detriment of people, because then you are perfect. Okay, then what is the big deal? You grew up in a perfect house. You grew up as a child who knows only righteousness. So it could be considered not the greatest thing. But a person who knows the meaning of sin, he has tasted temptations and desires and things like this, and then he changed totally. I mean, I'm talking about a real tshuva. Then this man should be considered more important than even the righteous person. Why? Because this man has changed his personality. So sometimes the fact that you have mistakes could make you better than, if you know what to do next, could make you better than a person without mistakes. You see, that's the reason why even Baal Tshuva is better than the righteous man, according to that opinion. Why? Because this man has changed himself. It's not like the righteous person who never changed himself. So it's possible that if temptation will be very strong upon him, maybe he will fail. But the person who has changed has proven himself already that he has overcome completely his evil inclination, and therefore he is considered better. Which brings us to the point that our sages have said, אין אדם נכשל בדבר הלכה, אלא אחר שנכשל, אין אדם עומד על דבר הלכה, אלא עד שנכשל בה. You know, when you know very well a certain knowledge, when you have a knowledge that is pure, is only because you made mistakes before. Only after you make mistakes, then the change by knowing the truth is better than not knowing it at all. Is better than the one who knows it from the beginning till the end. So again, En Adam Omed al Dvar Halacha, you know, when you know exactly the meaning of a law, of Jewish law, only after you made mistakes about it before. Then now when you know the truth, when you know the real Jewish law, then now we can count on you. There is a great sense of truth in what I'm saying here. But think about it. So now let's go to Vayigash. So Yehuda was the king of the tribes of Israel. Even though Yosef is known as the king also of Egypt. So we have two kings in confrontation. Total confrontation. Yehuda now is coming forth. Finally, he couldn't contain himself anymore. Binyamin has to come back with us to our father. We cannot go back empty-handed. Even though you give us all the goodies that you have in Egypt, but we have to bring back our child. I promised it to my father Yaakov. So he came up. Vayigash elav Yehuda. Vayomer bi Adoni. Yedaber na avdecha davar beozne Adoni. He spoke harshly to Joseph. Now Joseph is the king of Egypt, practically. He was given the full power by Pharaoh, right? Yehuda is coming up. According to the Midrash, Yehuda was extremely strong, that he was capable of practically destroying all Egypt. According to Rashi brings that he says, when he said the words to Yosef, his brother, of course, he still doesn't know that Yosef is his brother, right? But Yosef knows, he recognized his brothers, but he keeps it in secret while he goes to the corner and he cries. But in the meantime, he wants to give a lesson to his brother for selling him. I don't want to go over the story again, but we already discussed this and you know it. So Yehuda is now coming up, confronting Joseph. And he says to him, Ki kamocha keFaro. I know that you are exactly like Pharaoh. You have the same power. But Rashi adds the commentary saying, as Pharaoh is a liar, you are also a liar. Why do you come and question us? What's the difference between us and other people who came to Egypt to buy supplies for food? Why do you ask us about our father, our brother? Why? Did we come to marry your sister or what? What's going on here? The Midrash adds the words that if you anger me, Yehuda says to Yosef, I will destroy you and Pharaoh. Ki chamocha ki Paro. Very difficult to believe, right? But that's what the Midrash says. And it's true that Yehuda, known as the lion of the Jewish people. The Yehuda is an expression of bravery and courage and tremendous power, which will come out in the time of the Mashiach. When the Mashiach comes back and he becomes the king of Israel from the tribe of Yehuda, of course, of Judah. That's why we are called Yehudim, Jews. Yehudim comes from the word Yehuda, right? So Yehuda is coming now to Yosef, and Yosef is looking at the situation. He sees that he knows Yehuda, he knows that he has tremendous power. At the same time, he is dying to hug his brothers. But he decided not to reveal his identity up to now. Finally, when Yehuda spoke harshly to him, then we have the next pasuk, the next verse saying, Velo yachol Yosef litapek. He cannot resist anymore. He is exploding. And then finally he revealed his identity and he said, Ani Yosef, I am Joseph, your brothers, that you have sold to Egypt. Tell me, is my father still alive? That's the first question that Yosef is asking after he revealed his identity to them. What does it say in the Torah? And the verses continue and tell us, Velo yachelu echav la'anot oto ki nivhalu mipanav. His brothers stood stupefied before Yosef. They could not even tell him the answer to anything. They were taken, paralyzed by the revelation that Yosef is their brother. And they were ashamed. Even though long time before they already had tremendous repentance, and they realized that what they did to their father was terrible, even though they were justified by the knowledge that they had. They thought that Yosef deserves to disappear. But now they realize that their father was in tremendous mourning all the time. For 21 years he was mourning for his son Yosef. And they realized that this was too much. And our sages said they did not eat meat and they did not drink wine for the duration of all these years, which, by the way, Yosef also did not, until this revelation brought them together. But the brothers cannot even talk. They were so ashamed. So Yosef told them, don't worry, come, please, my brothers, come. Because everything is from God, and God did all this. He did it for a plan. This is a plan, and there is a purpose why He made you to come and tell me. But still the question remains. Why is it that those brothers who were extremely strong in character as well, in personality, and as well as in physical power, according to the Midrash, of course, why is it that they could not answer Yosef? Because they were terrified by one thing. They realized how wrong they were. Because until today, they still had in their mind that probably the judgment that they released was true. Only they are sorry for what they caused to their father. But now they realize that the dreams of Yosef came true. That they were wrong. How can they remedy to this terrible thing that they have done to their brother, when their brother is now really the king of Egypt, right? Tremendous power, practically, of all the world. There was no nation in the world, there was no country more powerful than Egypt at the time, and the supplier of food to the world at the time, because, of course, of Yosef's tremendous wisdom, right? So finally, the truth has come up. And this teaches us what I said in the beginning. Because of the mistake that Yehuda and his brothers have done, have committed, that's the reason that now they are much better. If they did not commit any mistake, they would be considered righteous, but it's not the best. The best is when they realize how mistaken they were. And that's the lesson of today. One has to always realize the mistakes that he committed, because most of the time we refuse to recognize our own mistakes because of our natural pride. But if one can bring himself to recognize the faults and the mistakes that he commits, he becomes a better person than before. That's why God created mistakes, so that people can remedy and become better. And that's something that can be studied for many times, but very important. And now we know that the beginning of this Parashat Vayigash is telling us that Yehuda and his brothers finally recognized how wrong they were, and now they became more humble. And that's what God cherishes more than anything else, humbleness. That's why Moshe was designated as the leader of Israel forever and the teacher of Israel. Why? Not because of his knowledge, not because of his background. I mean, well, his background was in Egypt, as you know. But Moshe was humble. And the Torah says, Ve'ish Moshe anav me'od. Because when Moshe made a mistake, he recognized it. He admitted it. And to admit a mistake makes you a better person. Shabbat Shalom.